As we transition from our previous module on social and emotional development, we now broaden our perspective even further. Throughout this course, we've emphasized that aging is shaped by biology, psychology, and social context. In this module, we'll go even further by recognizing that aging is also profoundly shaped by culture, history, economics, and global forces. Aging is universal. It is something we all experience, and every society includes older adults. But the experience of aging is far from universal. It varies across racial, ethnic, gender, socioeconomic, and national contexts. It varies across political systems and welfare states, and it varies across cultures with different values and expectations. Taken together, it becomes very clear that there is no single way to age. In this lecture, we'll explore aging in diverse populations, examining how globalization, inequality, and cultural context shape later life experiences across the globe.
That's where I'll spend leaving you. Going through it, you can have it. That's where.
Let's begin our discussion with the global picture. We've previously covered how the US population is aging. These trends are also occurring worldwide, but unevenly. Some countries like Japan, Italy, and Germany are experiencing rapid population aging, with high proportions of adults over 65 and even 80. These countries face challenges related to pension sustainability, healthcare costs, and shrinking labor forces. Other regions, particularly parts of sub Saharan Africa, still have relatively young population structures, though aging is accelerating there as well. These differences reflect the demographic transition model we discussed in Module 1. Countries in later stages of demographic transition tend to have lower fertility rates and longer life expectancy, resulting in older populations. However, demographic aging unfolds within very different economic and political contexts. Some countries have strong pension systems and universal healthcare. Others rely heavily on family support or informal labor markets. In this way, the experience of aging and the challenges associated with it will vary from location to location. Still, globalization adds yet another layer. Migration, economic restructuring, and transnational family systems reshape caregiving norms and social support networks. In other words, we can't just focus on individual countries, but we also have to focus on how older adults and their networks move through and navigate across borders. Thus, aging can't solely be understood as biological, psychological, or social. We also have to think geopolitically.
You can have it. That's where.
Within countries, including the US, aging experiences vary significantly across racial and ethnic groups. Research consistently shows disparities in life expectancy, chronic disease prevalence, access to healthcare, and wealth accumulation. These disparities are not random. They reflect structural inequality, including racism, residential segregation, unequal education systems, and labor market discrimination. The life course perspective is especially important here. Cumulative disadvantage, or exposure to chronic stress, limited economic opportunity, and environmental risk, accumulates over decades and shapes health outcomes in later life. At the same time, culturally rooted strengths exist within diverse communities. Extended family networks, strong faith communities, and collective caregiving traditions can provide resilience and social support. Still, we also must avoid cultural essentialism, or the belief that cultural groups have fixed characteristics that define the entire group. Diversity exists within racial and ethnic groups, shaped by socioeconomic status, migration history, urban versus rural residents, and generational differences.
You can have it. That's where.
Gender also profoundly shapes aging experiences. Globally, women live longer than men. This demographic reality has led to what is sometimes called the feminization of aging. However, longevity does not necessarily equate to security. Women are more likely to experience widowhood, economic insecurity, lower retirement savings due to lifetime wage gaps, and longer periods living with chronic illness. Women are also more likely to serve as caregivers, often simultaneously caring for aging parents and supporting grandchildren. Men face different vulnerabilities. Older men are at a higher risk for suicide and may experience greater social isolation, particularly after retirement or widowhood. Gender intersects with race, class, and culture to shape later life outcomes. Understanding aging requires attention to these intersections. Socioeconomic status is one of the most powerful predictors of aging outcomes. Income and wealth influence access to healthcare, quality of housing, nutrition, neighborhood safety, and access to long term care, to name but a few things. Education is also linked to cognitive reserve, which we discussed in Module 3. Individuals with higher educational attainment often demonstrate greater resilience to cognitive decline. Globally, retirement systems vary dramatically. In some countries, formal pension systems provide stable income in later life. In others, older adults rely on family members or continue working in informal labor markets. Economic inequality in earlier life often translates into vulnerability in later life. Globalization has also reshaped aging through migration. Older immigrants may face language barriers, cultural dislocation, limited eligibility for public benefits, and reduced access to culturally competent care. At the same time, transnational families are increasingly common. Older adults may live in one country while receiving financial support from children abroad. Conversely, adult children may migrate and leave aging parents behind. These patterns complicate caregiving arrangements and social support systems. Healthcare systems often struggle to address the unique needs of aging immigrant populations, particularly when documentation status, language access, or cultural barriers limit access to care. Cultural values deeply influence how aging is perceived. In some societies, older adults are viewed as repositories of wisdom and tradition. In others, youth may be more highly valued, and aging may be associated with decline. Norms regarding retirement, family responsibility, institutional care, and multi generational households vary significantly across cultures. For example, filial piety in many East Asian countries emphasizes strong obligations towards older parents. In contrast, individualistic societies may place greater emphasis on independence. However, even within cultures, urbanization, economic change, and globalization reshape norms. Traditional expectations may shift as families become geographically dispersed. Culture is far more dynamic than static. Across all these dimensions, race, gender, socioeconomic status, migration, the life course perspective remains central. Aging outcomes reflect decades of educational opportunity, occupational exposure, healthcare access, political stability, and economic inequality. Global disparities in aging are also shaped by political economy. Countries in the global north often have stronger long term care infrastructure than countries in the global south. Yet, rapid aging in lower income nations is creating urgent policy challenges. Understanding aging in diverse populations requires integrating micro level experience with macro level structures. For healthcare administrators and professionals, this lecture highlights several critical implications. 1. Avoid one size fits all approaches to aging. 2. Recognize within group diversity and intersectionality. 3. Design culturally responsive services. 4. Address structural barriers to access. And 5. Anticipate the impact of globalization and migration. If we were to sum up everything into one key takeaway, it's this: cultural humility is foundational to equitable gerontological practice. Aging is universal, but it is never culturally neutral. Race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, migration, and national context all shape aging experiences. Globalization reshapes family systems and caregiving norms. Structural inequality accumulates across the life course. Recognizing diversity does not fragment our understanding of aging, it actually deepens it. As you reflect on today's lecture, consider this question. How might assumptions about normal aging shift when viewed through a global and cross-cultural lens? This concludes the first lecture for Module 5. If you have any questions about the material covered in this lecture, please contact your instructor for this course. Thanks for watching.